War of the Theatres. The War of the Theatres is a name commonly applied to a controversy from the later Elizabethan theatre. Thomas Dekker termed it the Poetomachia. I don't know whether this is a correct pronunciation, but let's think of it in this way. Because of an actual ban on satire in prose and verse publications in 1599, which is called the Bishop's Ban, the satirical urge had no other remaining outlet than the stage. The resulting controversy, which unfolded between 1599 and 1602, involved the playwright Ben Jonson on one side and his rivals John Marston and Thomas Dekker on the other. In his play Histriomastics, Marston satirized John's pride through the character Chrysogonus. Johnson responded by satirizing Marston's wordy style in Every Man Out of His Humour, a play acted by the Lord Chamberlain's men. Marston, in return, replied with Jack Drum's Entertainment, a play acted by the Children of Paul's, satirizing Johnson as Brabant Senior, a cuckold. In Cynthia's Rivals, acted by the Children of the Chapel, Johnson satirizes both Marston and Dekker. Marston is thought to be represented by the character Head-On, a light, voluptuous reveler, and Dekker by Einitz, a strange, arrogating puff. Marston next attacked Johnson in What You Will, a play most likely acted by the Children of Paul's. Johnson responded with The Poetester by the Children of Chapel, again, in which Johnson portrays a character representing Marston as vomiting bombastic and ridiculous words he has ingested. Dekker completed the sequence with Satyromastics, which mocks Johnson as an arrogant and overbearing hypocrite. Apparently, Johnson and Marston later came into terms and even collaborated with George Chapman on the play Eastward Ho in 1605. That play offended King James with its anti Scottish satire, a part apparently written by Marston. While Marston evaded capture, Johnson and Chapman ended up in jail as a result. Shakespeare probably alludes to the War of the Theatres in a scene between Hamlet and Rosencrantz and Guildenstern in his play Hamlet. So, this War of Theatres is very important. Next, we move on to Jacobean period, during which King of Scotland reigned as James VI between 1567 and 1625. So James first wrote Demonology, which opposed witchcraft, and it was also a source for Shakespeare's Macbeth. He also wrote the authorized version of the Bible. It was a revision which respected earlier versions, especially that of Tyndale. It retained the archaic words and phrases. The Wycliffe Bible of 1384 was another foundation for the authorized version. It was published on 1611 and it came to be called King James Bible and has also been called the miracle of English prose. Next, we move on to an important term which is a revenge tragedy. The revenge tragedy or revenge play is a dramatic genre in which the protagonist seeks revenge for an imagined or actual injury. The term revenge tragedy was first introduced in 1900 by H. Thorndike to label a class of plays written in the late Elizabethan and early Jacobean eras. The features of this play is that it is a dumb show with a Machiavellian villain. There will be soliloquies, murders, corpses, ghosts. There will be physical torment and sudden reversals. Some of the examples of revenge tragedy are Middleton's The Revenger's Tragedy, Webster's The White Devil and The Duchess of Malfi, Ford's "'Tis Pity She's a War" and The Broken Heart, Shirley's The Cardinal. Francis Bacon's opinion on the Jacobean revenge tragedy is put forth in his essay of Revenge. Next, another important term is the city comedy. City comedy is also called citizen comedy. It is a common genre of Elizabethan, Jacobean, and Caroline comedy on the London stage from the last years of the 16th century to the closing of the theatres in 1642. Romantic comedy and humoral comedy gave way to city comedies. They are satirical comedies based on London life. Some of the examples are Fletcher's The Night of the Burning Pestle, Johnson's Bartholomew Fair, Middleton's A Chaste Maid in Cheapside. Next is tragicomedy. Tragicomedy is a literary genre that blends aspects of both tragic and comic forms. The term was variously describe either a tragic play which contains enough comic elements to enlighten the overall mood, or often a serious play with a happy ending. And the features are importable complicated plot with unnatural situations. The characters will be of a high social class or of nobility. There will be disguises, surprises, jealousy, intrigue, etc. And the examples of tragic comedy are Fletcher's The Faithful Shepherdess, then Beaumont and Fletcher's Philaster or Love Lies a Bleeding. Next topic is masks. The mask was a form of festive quarterly entertainment that flourished in 16th and early 17th century Europe, which involved music and dancing, singing and acting within an elaborate stage design. Ben Jonson is considered to be the pioneer of this genre. The Mask of the Beauty, the Mask of Blackness are examples. Anti-masks were also introduced by Ben Jonson. An example is Mask of Queens. We are moving on to some important authors. First one is George Chapman. He is considered to be the rival poet in Shakespeare's sonnets addressed to the fair youth. He is more famous for his translations of Homer. Keats wrote the sonnet on first looking into Chapman's Homer. You have to keep it in mind. Dryden unjustly described his style as a dwarfish thought dressed up in gigantic words. Some of the works of George Chapman are Caesar and Pompey, All Fools. It is one of his comedies and it was influenced by Ben Jonson. And the plot was adapted from Terence. Next work is Eastward Ho. It was written by Chapman, Johnson and Marston after the War of Theatres ended. I have already told about that. So it was written in response to Westward Ho, an earlier satire by Dekker and Webster. So the next writer is Thomas Heywood. Charles Lamb called him a sort of prose Shakespeare. And his important works are A Woman Killed with Kindness, The English Traveller. Next, Thomas Dekker. He is a literary hack, pamphleteer and playwright. His work Satyromastrix was written in 1601 and printed in 1602. Other works were Westward Ho, Northward Ho, and both were written along with Webster. Ben Jonson considered him as a hack writer. Ben Jonson satirized Dekker as Demetrius Phanius in The Poetaster and as Aeneas in Cynthia's Rivals. Then Dekker satirized Jonson as an affected hypocritical Horace in Satyromastics. Another work is The Shoemaker's Holiday or The Gentle Craft. It is a boisterous comedy of London life. Rowland Lacey, who loves Rose, the daughter of the Lord Mayor of London, disguises as a shoemaker. That's the main theme of this work. Next writer is John Marston. He has written twin plays Antonio and Melida and Antonio's Revenge, and both ridiculed by Jonson in The Poetaster. The most famous play of John Marston is The Malcontent. It was dedicated to Ben Jonson. And another works were Hystromastics, which is regarded as his first play. Then The Scourge of Villainy, What You Will. What You Will is a comedy. In Hystromastics, Marston satirized John's pride through the character Chrysogonus, and this sparked off the War of Theatres. And Jonson satirized Marston as Clove in Every Man Out of His Humour, and Crispinus in The Poetaster, and Head-On in Cynthia's Revels. Marston in turn satirized Jonson. Okay, we'll end today's class with Cyril Tourneur. He's famous for two of his works, The Revenger's Tragedy, which echoes from Hamlet, and The Atheist's Tragedy, which is subtitled The Honest Man's Revenge. So that's all for today. In the next class, I will tell about more writers: John Webster, Beaumont and Fletcher, Thomas Middleton, and the list goes on. Thank you.